It is my intention today, first, to give the author of the bill a quick opportunity to present the bill, no more than 10 minutes to 15 minutes to make his opening remarks. At the conclusion of that, we will have, I know we have 3 elected officials that are scheduled to speak, Representative Parent, and we also have 2 members of the DeKalb County government, I believe, that are going to speak. No, we won't have that many. We're going to consolidate the time. Once we complete that, or after we complete the opening statements from the author, we're going to allow an hour and a half for testimony and comments from the public. We're going to split that hour and a half into 45 minutes. The first 45 minutes would be those that have signed up to speak in opposition to the bill. And depending on how long our elected officials take, whatever time is left over, that will be split up into the time for the other people to speak. I really, really, really strongly encourage you to unify your comments so that we do not have the same multiple people saying the same thing over and over and over again. I know that every one of you came because you want to be heard, and we want to give you that opportunity, but I think that there are times where the message has been made, we understand that, and so please, I encourage any groups or coalitions or however to get together so that you can come up with a respective spokesperson or a minimal number of spokespeople to do that. So that'll be the first 45 minutes after we get started. The remaining the next 45 minutes will be for those that wish to speak in support of the measure. Again, we'll do that the same way. At the conclusion of that, hopefully we're on schedule, then that will allow approximately 10 to 15 minutes for the author to make his final comments, and at that particular time we will allow any of the committee members to ask the author additional questions at that time. But we've been very open and transparent in this whole process, trying to give everybody advance notice, and we're going to continue that. And I will tell you that we have already scheduled the next meeting a week in advance, and so the next meeting will be Tuesday week, a week from today, and then we'll get into other details there. So if everybody's great with that, I hope you are, and the committee members that are here, we're going to go ahead and start this process. I know I've spoken with several that will be coming and going because of other activities going on, and we've already taken up about 4 minutes. So at this point, I will call on the author of the bill to come forward, and before we get started, I would like to open this in a word of prayer as is customary in our respective meetings. So if you'll bow with me, please. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we ask that as we come here and all the people that are gathered here, as we go about the work of the people, that you guide us, that you direct us, that you give us wisdom and discernment in our minds, and that we allow to respect others and to not make personal attacks, but make this truly focus on the issues. And as we address those issues, that you would give us the wisdom to say and do the right thing. Be with our friends and our families wherever they may be, and thank you so much for all the men and women that support this nation and support this country, Lord. Just guide us in all we say. In Christ's name, amen. Thank you. One final comment. We are going to be respectful of people, and I'm going to do my best to keep us on point, on focus of the issues at hand, and we're really going to focus on that, okay? Thank you very much. Let's get started. And this is a new mic system. What mic are you? Try it.
Just testing. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank all of the members of the public who came out today to your state capital to make your feelings known on House Bill 636, the proposed city charter for a city of Brookhaven in DeKalb County. I am not going to take the full 10 minutes because I did do a presentation. I presented the bill to the committee a week ago, and actually that presentation is available now on the internet. So I don't want to repeat everything that I said before, but I do want to hit some of the high points of what is being presented to the committee and ultimately then yield for members of the public to express themselves to the members of the House Governmental Affairs Committee, because that's really what we are here to do today. The proposed city of Brookhaven, the proposed city of Brookhaven, as you are well aware, is proposed to be a city of 49,188 citizens, to be exact, in north central DeKalb County. Along the Fulton and DeKalb line. The boundaries to the north would be I-285 in the city of Dunwoody. To the west, the cities of Sandy Springs and Atlanta and Fulton County. To the south, I-85. And then roughly along the east, Claremont Road. There's a few parcels on the east side of Claremont Road and the city of Chamblee and the Chamblee city limits. The 49,188 would make the city of Brookhaven the 16th largest city in the state of Georgia. It would actually supplant it would be the largest city in DeKalb County, and it would supplant the city of Dunwoody both as the largest city in DeKalb County. Sorry, I see Mayor Davis over there. It would supplant the city of Dunwoody as both the 16th largest city in the state and the largest city in DeKalb County at that population number. The key difference, above and beyond all other differences between the county government that we currently work under, the DeKalb County government, and the city of Brookhaven, is a scale of governance issue, okay? Right now, the proposed city of Brookhaven is proposed to have 3 city council districts. Each one of those city council districts will have 2 members living in it. They must be residents of the district. One of those city council members will be elected from the district. One would be elected by the city at large. But there would be 2 city council members living in your neighborhood or in a nearby neighborhood. Now compare that to DeKalb County, a county just under 700,000 citizens, where your county commissioners, who work hard — I'm not taking anything away from our county commissioners, and I'm not taking anything away from our CEO, Burl Ellis, but I am here to say that we have a county commission system where our local representatives for Brookhaven live in Smoke Rise, Druid Hills, and downtown Decatur, not near the footprint of the proposed city of Brookhaven. This is an opportunity to have people making local decisions about your municipal services who live, work, and play in the same space that you do. And ultimately, fundamentally, that is what this issue is all about. Now, the Carl Vinson study, which many of you are familiar with, projects that the necessary expenditures for the city of Brookhaven would be $25.1 million. The Carl Vinson study estimated that there would be a surplus above and beyond that of $3.4 million. What we have done in the city charter is rolled down the millage cap to 3.35 mils. Right now, for municipal services, you pay a line item on your property tax bill known as the Special Services Tax District. You pay 6.39 mils for that to the county. That includes all of your municipal services. Police, parks and recreation, roads and drainage are the items which would go to the city that are encompassed within that Special Services Tax District. On your property tax bill, the Special Services Tax District line items, there's 2 of them, go away, so you're not actually adding property taxes to your property tax bill. You're instead trading out those line items for a municipal city tax line item on your property tax bill. It would be rolled back to 3.35 mils. Now, you have to take into account the effect of the host credit. And when you do that, nevertheless, a millage cap of 3.35 mils, which means that what the cap does is says that your millage rate for those municipal services will not go higher than that 3.35 mils without you being asked at the ballot box for your vote. That is something very different than exists in DeKalb County today. That millage cap rolls the surplus back to roughly $275,000. Now, some people will say, oh, well, that must be too little. I mean, that's very scary, $275,000. Except that if you look at the real-world experience with Dunwoody, their surplus was almost exactly their surplus was $275,000. I think ours is $269,000, but it's roughly equivalent. And the reality is that the expenditures for the city of Dunwoody were estimated significantly higher than what Dunwoody actually needed in its first year of operations. They were estimated by the Carl Vinson Institute to be at least 10% higher than what Dunwoody actually spent in its first year of operations in 2009. So, 4 minutes. I'm a lawyer, so I can go on and on and on, and I don't want to do that. So I appreciate the chairman letting me know that I've got 4 minutes. But so we know that the Carl Vinson Institute issues conservative estimates of what those expenditures are likely to be. We believe that the city of Brookhaven will come in significantly below that, in particular because there's no reason whatsoever that we shouldn't be able to do what Dunwoody has done. It is a city of roughly the same population. It is a city located in the same county, and they are spending today only they anticipate spending for 2012 only $20.9 million, whereas the estimate for the city of Brookhaven is $25.1 million. So we believe that to be a very conservative estimate. With regard to what that feasibility study does with regard to services, there's a lot of smoke being put out there about police services. Well, let me tell you something. There are 105 officers assigned to the North Precinct. The Carl Vinson Institute estimates a police force of 53 for the proposed city of Brookhaven. Now, the North Precinct has said that the proposed city of Brookhaven makes up 80% of the existing North Precinct. Well, the truth of the matter is it makes up 50% of the population. It makes up 50% of the land area. It does not include all of Buford Highway, nor does it include the Pleasantdale Road area, which are in the North Precinct. So we don't even believe that it accounts for that percentage of the total number of crimes in the North Precinct. So you have at least a city that's going to be at parity with existing police services, and actually based upon the experience in our neighboring cities, we actually believe that they're going to deploy those services much more efficiently and perform much better. And finally, parks. Our community has some very nice parks in it, and we found out from the county government that they spend roughly $480,000 on parks in DeKalb County. That's in the feasibility study, in parks in the proposed city of Brookhaven. That's in the feasibility study for the proposed city, and it's a direct number from the county government. The feasibility study, in order to provide a higher level of service for parks, estimated that a number on the order of 3 times that. And it was arrived at by saying, well, all right, take a city that has award-winning parks, Roswell. Take its expenditures for this year, divide them by their acreage, and multiply that back out by the acreage in the proposed city of Brookhaven. Now, all of these are estimates. I want you to keep that in mind. At the end of the day, what matters here are the people that when you go and vote in the general election of 2012, should this bill pass and should the referendum pass, what matters here is the people that you elect to represent you on that city council. They will make the expenditure decisions. We've got estimates that show a viable city, but at the end of the day, this is about your neighbors making decisions about your local government services. And that is something that ultimately, I hope we as a General Assembly will allow the citizens of Brookhaven to decide whether or not they would like. I'm not saying that you have to vote yes in that referendum or vote no in that referendum. But by golly, I am here today to put forward a bill in this General Assembly to give you the opportunity to vote whether or not you want that, just like Sandy Springs has, just like Dunwoody has, and just like the other new cities that have been created in recent years. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I will go sit down.
Thank you very much. All right. I appreciate the applause, but we really would prefer to try to keep that to either nothing or a very minimum. All right. We now are starting the 45 minutes for those that are speaking in opposition, and I believe that Representative Parent is going to speak very briefly before I call on the DeKalb County people, and I just want to remind you that this is all time that you're taking. So go right ahead, Representative.
Thank you, Chairman Hamilton and members of the committee. You may have noticed that this is a controversial topic. My district actually contains people in various postures with regard to this bill, and I just want to give you an overview of each of those postures so that you can understand where some of the contention is coming from. First, I represent people who are included in the proposed city. I myself live in this part of my district. The prevailing sentiment among those constituents that I represent, which are kind of in the southern part of the pink down here, is that they feel that this is being rushed and they would just like it to slow down. I secondly represent folks that would be left in that white area to the west of 85 that would remain as a small sliver of unincorporated DeKalb. And they would be impacted by the formation of this city, but they have no vote at the ballot box. They are asking you to be their voice and listen to their concerns. Lastly, I represent the city of Chamblee, which has been concerned throughout this process about the boundaries and the inhibition on its future growth. Most of my constituents that are in the Brookhaven map are not ready to vote on it this summer. For most of them, this idea came out of nowhere, and they have a lot of questions that they want answered. It's a very different posture than Representative Jacobs' district, where the folks that live in this green area had discussions about the formation of Dunwoody for a long time. The people I represent weren't involved in that conversation, so to them this really is a new topic, and it's just very different than the posture of people living up by the Dunwoody border. The questions that my folks are asking that they want answered are things such as, what are the problems that would be solved by incorporation? The vast majority don't seem to have a problem with the services they currently receive from DeKalb. They want to know what the effect is going to be on DeKalb County. They want to know if the county is going to have to raise taxes to make up for lost revenue. They want to know if the police protection will prove adequate. Dunwoody has been held up as the model, as you just heard Representative Jacobs describe, but some people do have some concerns because the Dunwoody police chief just told their city council that their police staffing is inadequate. And for folks that live near the high crime areas in Beaufort Highway, that's just not a small concern. They really need to know that those police numbers are right. They also are worried about the very thin margin between the projected revenues and the millage cap, especially where it comes to police protection and their own safety and well-being. A lot of my folks want to know why no one asked them if they were interested in forming a new city. And the reality is there's a lot of mistrust out of the neighborhoods I represent. And let me be clear, I've got people who are yes and I've got people who are no. I'm talking to you about the prevailing sentiment, which is let's just chill out a little bit. That's all. They mistrust it because they think that most of the people that started it and who advocate the most strongly for it don't live in what is currently considered Brookhaven. And therefore, they have some mistrust, and they don't understand why they weren't questioned and why they weren't part of the process. They want to know what their other options are. They want to know about joining an existing city. They want to know if there's an option short of full incorporation that would allow for more local control. A lot of my constituents view having to vote in July as a lose-lose. If their questions that I've just laid out for you are not answered and the charter isn't fully vetted, they lose the opportunity to form Brookhaven the right way, regardless of how they vote. They also lose the opportunity to consider alternatives to incorporation, such as annexation into existing cities. So it's really not just about letting the people vote. This is about foisting a flawed choice on many citizens who are opposed to making that choice before they've had time to fully vet it. And as policymakers, we bear some responsibility for vetting this process and not just passing the buck onto the residents. For my constituents that would be left in unincorporated DeKalb, there have been boundary problems almost from the beginning, with commercial properties that they associate with their neighborhoods brought into Brookhaven while the neighborhoods themselves were not. And they don't have a voice at the ballot box, regardless of how big an impact this city would have on their property values and quality of life. They are currently exploring annexing into Chamblee as a direct result of this bill, and I'm introducing a bill that would permit that, but that annexation would actually cover a portion of the Brookhaven, of the land that's slated for Brookhaven. If that issue gets resolved and those folks do annex, I still have islands up by 85 that would be left in my district. I already have islands as a result of Dunwoody's incorporation that pose a law enforcement and government services problem. So that's why I say we need to be careful that we don't rush forward on things that leave islands. We need to at least consider what the ramifications are for everyone that lives in between 285 and 85, because it's really not a big landmass. I already mentioned the Chamblee's problems. They're concerned about their future growth.
Representative, I just want to caution you.
Yep,
you asked for 3 minutes. You've taken 6, and this is just going to eat into the time of others.
I'm done. All right, Chamblee's concerned about their future growth. And last, let me just say, I would like you to consider it carefully, because if things are rushed and not fully explored, mistakes are made. There's no harm in waiting and seeing if there can't be more community support than there currently is. This has been discussed for less than 1 year. My constituents would like to see more data, another study, and consideration of alternatives. And in short, they're not saying no. They're just saying, whoa.
Thank you very much. Again, let's keep the applause down. Mr. Bowers, do you have some people from DeKalb County? Huh? Yeah, we'll go in this order. Okay, Commissioner Jeff Ader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and
if you would state your name and
yes, I will.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Jeff Rader. I'm the DeKalb County Commissioner for District 2. In regards to this map, I represent 2 of the 3 proposed city council districts. Since the formation of the 15-member Citizens for North DeKalb group, I have called for a more comprehensive focus on local government for DeKalb, and for us to open that up to other opportunities and options. I'm not against new cities. I'm not against the existing cities and their prerogatives to incorporate. And I'm certainly not against the unincorporated government. Basically, we need to look carefully and make good decisions. I sponsored a resolution that has been distributed to you that calls for a comprehensive study not only of the impact of annexation on the unincorporated county, but also of what would be rational boundaries for cities, not just in Brookhaven, but elsewhere in DeKalb, so that should incorporation occur, there would be an equilibrium in DeKalb County, that we wouldn't create situations where there would be insufficient tax base to deliver services. I worked with the Atlanta Regional Commission and with the mayors in DeKalb County, had 2 meetings with mayors, including Mayor of Dunwoody and others, to work out a scope of work for that study. That scope, drafted by the ARC, is likewise in your package. We need to look before we leap. New city residents don't know the details of the proposed city charter. For instance, did you know that 46% of the registered voters of this proposed city would live in one single city council district? There are 4 of the 7 votes on that city council, including the mayor, that would be at-large votes, so that 46% would have a great deal of influence over that. There are many other details that people should look at in this city charter. We've got less than 40 days to make a decision on what will be voted on. We need to look before we leap. We're confronting the unknown. After Sandy Springs was established, following 30 years of debate, the remainder of North Fulton negotiated to ensure the viability of those municipalities there. That's not happening here. There could be a domino effect and really unknown consequences in DeKalb if this happens in a piecemeal fashion. In South Fulton, incorporation was less successful. The remaining unincorporated area in South Fulton has seen their taxes double, and they're facing a deficit this year. And they are a very low-density unincorporated area. In South DeKalb, there is a lot more service delivery demand. I'm not saying that they shouldn't pull their own weight, but if they can't, who will pick up that slack? We have 8 cities in DeKalb. This bill would hem in 3 of them. Shouldn't they have more options? The charter opens the door to many new things. Representative Jacobs has successfully precluded backdoor GO bonds in unincorporated DeKalb. This would open that door in the city of Brookhaven, and backdoor GO bonds, bonded indebtedness not approved by a public referendum would be possible in this new city. So what we want is to look more expansively at this. We think that we ought not take any action on any incorporations until we're able to deal with this. Even, the proposal that has been drifting out there for several years of a city of DeKalb, that shouldn't happen. You as a committee in this General Assembly can give us the space to judge this in a more comprehensive and inclusive way, work through neighborhood organizations, work representatively, and come up with an ideal solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Borough Ellis, Mr. Ellis. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the Governmental Affairs Committee. I'm joined today, I'm Borough Ellis, DeKalb County Chief Executive Officer. I'm joined today by William O'Brien, the DeKalb Police Chief. Let me say first and foremost to members of the committee, I'm not here to speak for or against incorporation. I represent all the citizens of DeKalb County. I'm elected countywide, but I am here to speak on behalf of fairness in the process. I believe in the fundamental right of all citizens to be able to vote and choose how they want to be governed. However, it is also a fundamental responsibility of the government to make sure that all of our citizens are informed of the impacts of an incorporation. When we get elected, when we choose how we want to be governed, we do that by votes, we do that by referendums, we do that by annexations, incorporations, and even recalls. But one of the fundamental responsibilities of a government and of all of us who are elected, whether it's countywide as myself or elected as state representatives such as you, one of the fundamental responsibilities is to ensure not only that the 49,000 people who are proposed to be drawn into this new city are fully informed, but also the 690,000 people who are represented and will be impacted throughout the remainder of DeKalb County are informed as well. You've already heard some of the issues, but let me just mention some that I think we failed to look at. The level of services before and after incorporation, the viability of other options, including annexation into nearby cities, the impact on other nearby cities, the effect of drawing in certain commercial areas which bring in the highest revenue into this city as opposed to leaving them either in unincorporated DeKalb or into some of the nearby cities, and the fairness to cities who've invested in building the infrastructure in this area which could now be incorporated into a new city. I mean, that's just a handful of some of the issues I think we haven't fully explored or have fully vetted at this time. The process where we are now, I think, has certain shortcomings. We've looked at the feasibility of cost on the citizens, on those 49,000 citizens within these proposed boundaries, but we haven't looked at the full impact of all the decisions we're making on the 735,000 citizens who live throughout DeKalb County. One of those issues in particular that I know that has been addressed relates to police services, and so I want to ask Chief O'Brien if he could just take a minute or so just to talk about how we're going about delivering police services in the Brookhaven community and some of the solutions that we have as a county as opposed to where we'd be as an incorporated municipality. Chief O'Brien.
Great, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, and welcome. Thank you, Mr. CEO. I'm not going to stand up here and argue numbers or statistics. We could do that for hours on end up here. But I think what we do have to point out that it is very important when you're looking at developing a police department that you look at what we call a depth chart, if you will, or a list of the resources when you discuss the idea of incorporating a city. The DeKalb County Police Department can shift resources in a very timely manner to address a wide variety of law enforcement issues that might arise on any given day. We provide a full-service law enforcement agency with proven results, folks. Now, I think one of the things you have to think of when you start talking about that depth chart is what does it include? It includes things like a SWAT team. And I'm not talking about people that are on patrol that get activated on a SWAT call. I'm talking about dedicated men and women that are a full-time SWAT team that can react at a moment's notice. I'm talking to things like a bomb squad, a gang unit, helicopter, tactical response team, Homeland Security, training division, motorcycle squad, DUI task force, traffic specialist unit, an internal affairs unit to investigate police misconduct or officer-involved shootings, and these are just a few. The other thing you have to talk about when you look at these resources are what I refer to as force multipliers, which are some of these sources, as well as resource overlay. And by that I mean when you have a particular incident, let's say an armed robbery, it takes more than just a uniform officer responding out to that armed robbery to work the call. We activate detectives, the K-9 unit, the helicopter, and we apprehend the criminals that we're looking for. You can't just have one detective that handles a wide variety of cases either. We have specialized units, auto theft, special victims, which handle sexual assault cases, homicide, robbery, auto theft, narcotics, just to name a few. But these people don't work a variety of cases from a simple shoplifting case to a homicide. We have designated groups of people that handle those things. And my question is, are you ready to take that on? And then lastly, when you look at what was mentioned earlier, City of Dunwoody, they just recently asked for things that we already have: an accreditation manager, a crime analyst. These are things we already have, and the list could go on, others that they've asked for. We have the resources, folks. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Chief. In conclusion, let me say this. You've just heard from one of our service areas, and that's police services, but we could have brought in others. There are obvious impacts of incorporation, both on those people who choose to be incorporated, as well as those 690,000 citizens who are going to be directly impacted through such an incorporation as is being proposed here. I'm going to finish where I started. I'm not here to speak for incorporation. I'm not here to speak against incorporation, but I am here, and this is my ask, that the General Assembly not make a hasty decision now and move forward without fully understanding and fully studying the impact of incorporation, not only on those 49,000 citizens who are being proposed to be drawn into this new municipality, but also on the 690,000 citizens who are going to be impacted as a whole. I believe that's the responsibility of government and our responsibility as elected officials, and I thank you for your time here today.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your service. And Chief O'Brien, we also appreciate your service to the citizens of not only DeKalb, but to the state of Georgia. We appreciate that very much. Mr. Bowers, did you have anybody else that wanted to speak on that? Okay, all right, thank you. We now will start on the other people and by my estimation, we are probably going to be limited to somewhere in the vicinity of 1 minute, a little over a minute maybe, for the respective people, unless they choose to consolidate. We've got about 27 minutes and about equal number of people. We're going to ask, because of the mics in this particular room, it's not set up ideally, we're going to ask that you come up here to the front. So I'm going to call out 5 names at a time so that you can be prepared, so that we don't waste a lot of time or use up a lot of time trying to get out of your seat and move forward. And so I appreciate your understanding on that. Let me just read, and I apologize for some of the names that I may mispronounce, but Rachel Marie Galati, Nikki Vandergarten, Pete Lavette, John Higley, and Alton Conway. If you could just make yourself, and when you get there, recognize again that there's over 20 people to speak, and so I would encourage you to limit your comments to no more than 1 minute, because you're taking up time for others. And please state your name and the purpose of being here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Marie Galotti, and I'm a resident on Pioneer Court. I live in the neighborhood directly behind St. Pius High School. We are a few blocks from the Brookhaven borders. As Mr. Jacobs said, I live right near the area that juts over Buford Highway, and my concern is that we've been left out. Our community is going to be completely isolated, and this is going to have economic and social ramifications for us. And to me, it seems that it's economic and racial segregation on why we've been left out. We're the international community, we're the lower income community, and we're a very diverse community. And we have been turned into a little island sandwiched in between Chamblee, Brookhaven, Atlanta, and 85. And 85 might not be a city, but it's a giant boundary over into the rest of unincorporated DeKalb County. And we don't want to be an isolated area. We want to be part of a future city, whether it's Brookhaven or Chamblee, and we need our businesses that are adjacent to our neighborhoods, and that's the border issues. There are a lot of border issues. I have grown up in Chamblee my whole life, and I work in Brookhaven and know people in all areas. The Sexton Woods community is going to be completely divided, and our area is going to be turned into an island. So I ask that you please look at the border issues before making a decision, and that this vote be postponed so more people have an opportunity to look at the issues and that they can vote in a general election where more people do vote, and that a study is done to look at the economic ramifications for DeKalb County overall. I have been a DeKalb County school teacher for 8 years. I want to know what it's going to impact DeKalb and how it's going to impact areas such as ours. And we have no vote. We're totally disenfranchised by this, and it's very unfair, and I don't understand why the parcels across Claremont Road are being taken when the residents aren't. It just doesn't seem right. We should be included, or our businesses should not be included. And as state representatives, I hope that you will look at how this is going to impact all people and not just the wealthy individuals that live within the borders. And right here is a petition that has been signed, and I'm not representing anybody in particular. This petition has been signed by people who live within the borders and people who live within the surrounding areas. And there's enough for, I think, everybody if I pass it down.
If you'll just place it right on the edge, and
I'll
we'll
place
make sure
it right on the edge. And this is as of yesterday. There are more votes as of today. Thank you very much for your time, and for those of you who listened to me on the phone and gave me the time and returned phone calls, thank you
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm Nikki Vandergrint, and I'm president of the Dresden East Civic Association. The boundary, I am not speaking for my association per se, I'm speaking as an individual. But the boundaries of DECA are the same boundaries as the slice of the parcel that is not being considered for annexation into city of Brookhaven. Representative Jacobs mentioned the few parcels east of Claremont that they've taken in their borders, and these are the parcels that are so important to us. We want to preserve our options for future annexation into some city or whatever in the future. And if they take those parcels, which are no more theirs than they are ours, so to speak, that's a commercial area. There are very few homes in that area, and they certainly are not traditionally part of Brookhaven. We want the border of the city of Brookhaven to be Claremont Road, and anything east of Claremont Road should be fair game for our area. And that's just about all I have to say.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and committee members, I'm John Higley, and I already live in Brookhaven. I'm here because a number of my neighbors and myself believe that the proposed city's name could not and should not be Brookhaven. Brookhaven is a already well-organized, well-recognized, homogeneous area that is well-known in the city of Atlanta. We need to also consider the number of people that live in Brookhaven in the city of Atlanta. Imagine the confusion that these people are going to have when they say to people they live in Brookhaven when they don't really live in Brookhaven. I have also asked several real estate agents from the area what they believe the impact of this new city proposal is going to be. They believe that the folks that have property in the northern part or the Murphy-Chandler areas, houses, will probably appreciate 20 to 30%. Those people that live in the now defined area of Brookhaven will probably see a 5 to 10% depreciation of theirs just by the dilution of the name. I also believe that in the name of good public policy, fairness, and honesty, we need to give this city an appropriate name, not one that's stolen by some people that don't like theirs. So I think it could be a very unique city in the state and in the area, but it needs a unique name that's not already taken.
Thank you. We are learning things today.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Pete Lant, and I live in historic Brookhaven on the Atlanta side, the Fulton County side. I'm not for or against this proposed new city unless it's named Brookhaven. A couple of different points that Mr. Higley made. I did a little history studying, and basically I passed out a picture of the historic Brookhaven signs that are all around the neighborhood. The most important thing on that is that Brookhaven has existed as an entity for over 100 years. It started in 1910. If you ask 50,000 people in Atlanta if they've heard of Brookhaven, the answer is going to be yes. And if you ask them where it is, they know exactly where it is. It's historic Brookhaven. It's not Buford Highway, and it's not Murphy Candler. The current Brookhaven has a very strong precedent going for it. Look at any map. I brought two. I picked up and looked at about 20 others. You look on that map, you see Brookhaven. It's in print, and it's right where we live, right where I live. It's not Buford Highway. A critical question: what's the rush? That's been said by several other people. And why is this being proposed by basically one person and a few of his neighbors? Nobody.
All right. All right. All right. Let's keep it down.
I don't know of anybody south of Windsor Parkway that was asked their opinion on this. This has not been transparent. There's no common thread between these three districts. The boundaries seem based solely on tax-based purposes, and they keep changing. Why was Century Center deleted? As I said when I started, I live in Brookhaven, and I don't get a vote.
Thank you. And as Mr. Conway comes forward, let me read off the other 5 names so that you can come forward. Eugenie Wiener, Jim Etter, Thomas Hogan, Christina Smith, and Ronnie Mayer. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. My name is Alton Conway. I'm not a member of the Carl Vinson Institute. I didn't see any of those folks looking around my neighborhood. They deal in digits, numbers. They don't deal in social issues. And I think what you've seen here today are a series of folks coming up and talking about the social differences taking place with this decision. I live in the green area to the north. If you move aside, let them look at it. I live in the green area to the north. We get 2 votes in that whole large area. There are 2 votes in the two lower area, in the 2 lower precincts. They all, the yellow and the red, have the basic same social issues. As you go north, you're basically dealing with more single-family owner homes as opposed to the 46% was mentioned in one precinct. Very likely a large portion of those are renters. So we have issues. Our area to the north, we are more associated, and this is around Murphy County, more associated with Dunwoody. Those roads are like a sieve going to Dunwoody. We go to church in Dunwoody as a neighborhood, a large portion of us. We certainly eat and shop there. So you've heard a number of peripheral neighborhoods talk about the social issues, and I think that's what we're talking about. The Carl Vincent study made it look mighty good, but we have not had time to really think this out. I went to the Cross Keys hearing. Afterwards, they let folks come up in opposition, and they were nice, they were polite, this is well thought out, they've done a good job, and I don't have a thing against the people, but they were right dismissive about the folks that were coming up giving opposition. I don't think they've heard all the issues that make up the answers to this problem. The city of Sandy Springs, took 10 years to take place. They had a passion and they had patience. And if the passion is here, the patience will be here, and through time this will be worked out in the right way. We certainly want something to happen. We want better government. We do I enjoy DeKalb County. I've had good services in DeKalb County where some others haven't, but I don't like the price of taxes. And if they do the study to talk about DeKalb County's impact on this, I look forward to it because it means, Mr. Ellis, that y'all have to also answer to how you spend your money in our area. And that's the reason this is all being taken place, is because of how DeKalb County spends their money in our area and how they spend the money overall, watching the dollars. And that's what it's all about. But as far as DeKalb County, other than the cost, I have had good service. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right.
Hello, my name is Eugenie Wiener, and I am a resident of this area that is proposed to be Brookhaven. I'm also a member of a group called Ashford Neighbors, and what we have in these boxes here are copies of our 500 signatures that we have collected, more than 500 signatures, and more that we receive every day. And I would like to present these to you. These signatures ask that we be given more time so that we can consider the effects to ourselves and to the rest of DeKalb County, as we feel it's being rushed. There's another study coming. We would like to know what that study that DeKalb County is going to commission, what that study will say. And so please, I don't know where I could put these, but...
You can just leave them on the table. We'll make them available to the committee members as they leave.
Yes, and I also would like to be able to deliver these to you individually if possible. If not, I guess we'll be taking them home. So
just leave them there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Iyer, Ashford Park resident for over 10 years. Chairman Hamilton and members of the House Government Affairs Committee, thank you for your time and consideration today of this very important issue for me and my neighbors in the Brookhaven area. I would like to speak today of a flawed document that has been presented to you as a potential feasibility study for a proposed city of Brookhaven. This is a snapshot of an artificial point in time that has little benefit for determining the city's true finances. I'd like to focus on two budget items that together account for over 40% of the total budget for the proposed city: Public Works and Police, two of the so-called critical 3 Ps, the third being parks, that make up the bulk of the interaction most citizens have with their local city government. The snapshot of the Public Works cost in the feasibility study was taken from Dunwoody and Johns Creek budgets, our so-called peer cities. However, no consideration was given to the fact that these peer cities are much younger, most built 20, 30, and 40 years ago, while the majority of the public works infrastructure in the proposed city of Brookhaven was built 50, 60, even 100 years or more ago. As I'm sure you're aware in your own home, the older things are, the more they break, and the more they break, the more expensive it is to fix them. We see the problem created by under-budgeting public works improvements in the recent years of Dunwoody. The snapshot used for the Brookhaven feasibility study was 2008-2009. In its 2010 budget, the city of Dunwoody includes the following. The greatest hurdle includes infrastructure demands for roads and drainage that exceeds our revenue capacity, and continues with $2 million is needed for resurfacing, and an additional $2.5 to $3 million is needed to gradually improve our roadways. Clearly, the 2-year-old budget snapshot used for the proposed city of Brookhaven does not take into account the reality of today's skyrocketing costs for public works. For example, DeKalb County recently spent over $20 million to provide flood relief and stormwater management in the Drew Valley neighborhood. For the proposed budget of just over $1 million, more than 20 years of stormwater budget for the city of Brookhaven was spent to repair failing infrastructure in just one neighborhood. Clearly, the feasibility study does not accurately reflect the true cost to maintain the older infrastructure in Brookhaven. The snapshot for the police budget is based on a cost from Johns Creek and Dunwoody, two cities with a poverty rate that is 1/4 the 12.5% poverty rate for the proposed city of Brookhaven, and Smyrna, a city with a similar poverty rate. The cities with the lower poverty rate have an officer ratio of roughly 1 officer per 1,000 citizens. But Smyrna, a city with virtually identical poverty rate, has an officer ratio of 1.7 officers per 1,000 cities, or 60% more officers than the other cities. However, in the reconciliation of the police budget, the 3 cities were considered equal in the final average used to establish the police budget for the proposed city of Brookhaven. Again, to assume the proposed city of Brookhaven, with its miles of low-rent, crime-riddled apartments along Buford Highway, has the same police requirements as the Dunwoody and Johns Creek is ludicrous. In a recent report by Chief Grogan, the Dunwoody Chief of Police, he states, "I'm concerned about the long-term effects of the high workload, deteriorating staff morale, increased turnover rates, increased fatigue, and limited work production. In addition, I am concerned about services our department does not offer. And finally, with a force of just 46 sworn officers, it is growing increasingly difficult to maintain adequate visibility and reduce crime in Dunwoody." In his report, Chief Grogan goes on to state that the adequate staffing ratio for the city of Dunwoody is 1.56 officers per 1,000 citizens. A similar ratio for the proposed city of Brookhaven would provide 76 officers, 23 more than the 50 officers included in the feasibility study. Why the discrepancy? The snapshot for the feasibility study was taken well before Dunwoody came to realization their public safety budget leaves them dramatically underserved. But rather than taking the time to learn from the mistakes of our peer cities, Representative Jacobs is blindly charging forward, telling all who will listen that his police force will be fine simply because it mimics Dunwoody. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, it is clear the feasibility study produced to justify the proposed city of Brookhaven is flawed. To proceed at the current breakneck pace with these flawed numbers, particularly in light of the artificially low financial caps included in House Bill 636 and a continued decline in Brookhaven tax base, will put the proposed city of Brookhaven on perilous financial footing on day one. Time to correct these mistakes, to determine proper services for the citizens of this proposed city of Dunwoody. To establish true costs for these services is desperately needed. Therefore, it is imperative that you delay approval of House Bill 636 until such critical questions can be answered. Thank you.
Thank you. I need to tell the group that we're down to 9 minutes. 7 of you have taken over 20 minutes, so you're eating into the time. I tried to encourage you to speak 1 minute or less. All right, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. My name is Tom Hogan. I've got the pleasure of serving on Chamblee City Council. Let me be clear, I'm not here representing Chamblee nor the members of my jurisdiction, but offering you my own comments. I applaud Representative Jacobs and the group for having created this effort to form the city of Brookhaven. I'm very much a proponent of the concept of self-determination. I think the process that we've gone through has really shown a harsh light on some of the deficiencies that our process has from a governmental procedural standpoint. I am very concerned that the questions that people have about police coverage, the city of Chamblee has 17,000 residents and we have 50 sworn officers. The proposed city of Brookhaven has 49,000 people and has proposed 50 officers. These are things that can all be worked out. I don't believe in a millage cap. I think it's a political ploy. I think that your local elected officials should govern wisely and determine the budget for your city and set the millage appropriately for what's necessary to serve your city's residents. I just want to make sure that it's clear that the comment that I feel that's most appropriate is that there's a great sense of distrust, there's a great sense of not understanding, and I think that if we are not cautious and slow down the process just slightly, and do it right, informing people and presenting more studies, that you'll have a foundation of a city that could be a beautiful city formed on a foundation of mistrust. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eddie Ehlert. I'm moved to what is today being considered as the Brookhaven study area in 1977. I chose the area because it was an unincorporated part of DeKalb County, as I was exhausted with small town life. I want to speak to you today about the changes externally proposed to my home. The hopeful and lofty assumptions of revenue adequacy for the proposed city of Brookhaven are being paralleled with unrealistic propositions for replicating and improving the level of protection under a new small police department. The Carl Vinston Institute, or CVI study, selected a comparison of population area and poverty level with Smyrna, yet for unexplained reasons determined that Dunwoody would be an appropriate comparison for officers per 1,000 citizens. This comparison is somewhat mystifying since despite their similarities in population between all three areas, the poverty rate of the Brookhaven study area is 12.2%, similar to that of Smyrna, and more than 300% of that of Dunwoody. If no other comparisons than just poverty rate and citizens per officer are used, a reasonable initial number of officers for a startup Brookhaven Police Department would be 87 rather than the 53 suggested in the study. Apparently, the need to pretend a police force and cost would be smaller by averaging the citizens per officer of Johns Creek, Dunwoody, and Smyrna was more important than evaluating the poverty rate and related crime rate. The study fails to explain the correlation of low taxes to a hopefully low crime rate. The study area includes 3 highly differentiated and dissimilar areas in terms of criminal activity, types of crimes, and frequency of police involvement. Each area is given a district number on the map. The 2 northern districts are made up of established neighborhoods. These neighborhoods have a history of cooperation with DeKalb County Police and crime reduction programs over the years, and as a result, the crime rate has diminished over the last 5 years. The southern area of study is now and has been for decades the greatest consumer of police resources. This area includes large traffic arteries that regularly are the scene of horrific traffic accidents, quite often including pedestrians. It is a segment of the study marked by moderate to substantial rates of crimes of violence. It is part of the study where police regularly respond to shots fired calls. This area is populated both by long-term citizens who know their area police officers and very transient undocumented who may not call the police even when they're in severe peril. Situations requiring aerial surveillance are not uncommon. What has come to be referred to as the Buford Highway Corridor creates the largest drain on resources of the North Precinct. The DeKalb County North Precinct regularly has over 80 police officers through the study area over an average week. The total number of officers assigned to the North Precinct is 105. It defies logic to blindly assume that a reduction of the total number of available officers to 53, as suggested by the CVI study, would provide an adequate or similar protection for all of the citizens in the study area. Of course, nothing in the metrics of the study takes into account the poverty rate, crime statistics, or traffic patterns to state why 53 officers would be able to meet that demand. The metrics in the study instead seem to be geared more to keeping with the artificially low revenue numbers. At the very least, this situation deserves more careful and deliberate study for the benefit of all citizens in the current study area. There is no justification for hot-laning this issue because we'll still be there in a few years. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See how fast I can talk. Commissioner Hamilton, committee members, I've sent you a letter. My name's Christina Smith, so you've already seen some of my points. With all due respect to the gentleman from historic Brookhaven, I also live in Brookhaven, but I'm always careful to tell people I live on the other side of Peachtree, back behind the train station. And I'm actually a mile from Buford Highway, so I kind of have a foot in both places. And Chief O'Brien didn't tell y'all because he didn't want to brag on himself, but they just caught a burglary ring, or was it 2, in our neighborhood because they have the experience and the background that they know what's going on around there. The gang units are aware of what's happening, and I really worry about a new police force. Forget the numbers. They have the experience and they know what's going on. I've lived in Drew Valley for 30 years, and I'll tell you something. I've been a lawyer for almost 30 years, and I've read the 44-page city charter, and it scares the heck out of me because it grants a lot of power to essentially 4 people, 6-person council, 4 required for a quorum. And I don't have any doubts that everybody who's behind this has good intentions. I don't think that anybody's back there trying to force some bad situation to happen. I really don't. But I just would like to ask you to slow down and not pass the bill out of committee and let us look at how it will affect overall DeKalb County and our particular section. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, representatives, I'm Ronnie Mayer. I'm the president of the Asher Park Homeowners Association. I'm here today just for myself. I've lived in Asher Park over 40 years. I sort of consider myself one of the Asher Park sons. I look after all the old people around there. There's a lot of people there. They're scared to death. They don't have emails. They don't have websites to look at. I get an average of 15 calls a day what's going on, what's going on. I love these emblems here, and all of us that have been up here, we're not against this. We just want to be informed with right information. And every meeting that we go to speak, we're shunned down, we're yelled at, that our information is not right. If you compare us with the city of Smyrna, with the crime rate, the poverty rate, the ethnicity of the areas, they have 87 officers in Smyrna. 50 officers is not going to get it. If we have a city of Brookhaven, I'm going to be part of running it, and I don't want to be all these people say we need to do it and then throw me to the wolves, because it ain't going to work right now. It's not going to work. And there's a lot of people here that say, oh, the city of Brookhaven. I put sweat equity in it. I plant flowers. I pick up trash. Matter of fact, me and one of the guys sitting in this room almost got arrested last year for cleaning up DeKalb County Park on our time. The other scary thing is when like the lady said, the city charter is written up, 80% of the votes is going to come from this one little block at Murphy County Park. That's not Brookhaven, and to really the group that doesn't want to use the name of Brookhaven, we can always call it Jacob's Haven. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's a good one to switch gears on. Isn't it amazing what a little levity will do just to lighten the load? Appreciate that very much. I've learned several things today. We're now going to go to we're just simply out of time on that. We're going to go to the 45 minutes for the group that is here to speak in favor of let me give you the first 5 names. Lindley Jones, Mike Davis, Gliani Fagundo, J. Max Davis, and Michael Rock. Go right ahead.
May it please the committee, my name is Lindley Jones, and I'm a resident of the Brookhaven area. We are 12 square miles. We are 49,188 people. We are governed by DeKalb County, and in our entire footprint, we have not one DeKalb County commissioner. Our forefathers called that taxation without representation. We do too. We're asking for the same thing they asked for. We're asking for the right to vote. That's all we're here about, just the right to vote. Now, we've heard the folks in public hearings for months now that we have conducted and have educated the public about this feasibility study. We've heard the folks who want to slow down. And this legislation started last year when the original enabling legislation was passed. And for those who kept in the know, you knew about it last year. There's been a year of study and conversation going on. There have been multiple public meetings. This effort to say whoa is an effort to say no. Whoa is no. And we just want the chance to vote. That's all we're here for. The concern for us is not that this vote is too soon. I want to be very clear about this. The concern for us is that a vote any later than July 31st could be a vote too late, because we are bounded, as you have heard today, by other cities. And there are communities who want to be in a municipality, and they will annex and can potentially annex into Dunwoody, into Chamblee. And at that point, a city of Brookhaven may no longer be viable. So we believe it's July 31st or nothing. We believe that a delay would be death for our cause. We ask you to support us in our right to vote, to choose our opportunity for self-governance, to choose an opportunity for self-determination, and it's just American. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Mike Davis. I'm the mayor of Dunwoody. And we became a city primarily to represent ourselves. DeKalb County commissioners represent 140,000 people. Our commissioners, our council people represent 15,000 people. Your neighbor is actually your representative. And I can tell you for a fact, because I am now the mayor, I get the calls and I get the people stopping me in the street when I'm walking the dog, asking me what's going on, asking me what we can do about this problem, what we can do about that problem. This is why we became a city, to be able to control this stuff and represent ourselves. We now control our own zoning. We have 46 dedicated police officers, and response times are now minutes. I don't know how many police officers are correct, but I find the police chiefs all want more. We have intergovernmental agreements with other cities to take care of the SWAT items and some of the specialty items that Chief O'Brien discussed. We are very comfortable with what we have done, and we are progressing and moving forward every day as we become a better city. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now, we're not going to applaud after every one of them.
May it please the committee, my name is Kalyani Fagundo. I am a resident of Linwood Park. I've been living there for about 2.5 years, and we are within the boundaries of the proposed city of Brookhaven. And I'm not here to advocate for or against the city of Brookhaven. I'm leaning for it, but honestly, I was against it for a very long time. I just want the right to vote. And like Lindley mentioned when she was speaking, it's not that we've been moving fast. There's a certain sense of urgency just because this city will not be viable in a year. So this is our only in one shot. And basically, I keep hearing everybody saying it's moving too fast. I've been living there 2.5 years. Since I moved to the area, I've been hearing about Dunwoody annexation and all the other areas annexing to the other cities. And then early last year, they started talking about, well, let's just hold off on those annexations and let's look at our city. By April, I remember town hall meetings being hosted about let's raise some funds, let's see what it's like. I think by the end of the summer, and this has been everywhere in the media. I mean, I'm a generation of email, but I've seen it in the Dunwoody patch or Brookhaven patch, all the local newspapers, the AJC, so all residents have had access to this information. By July, they had raised enough funds to do the study. I live in DeKalb. I like my county. I like my representatives. But they keep saying they want more time for their study. Why didn't they get started back then? And then the group that actually got the study, and I didn't give them money because I didn't believe in the city of Brookhaven, they were done by October. And again, DeKalb kept saying, we need time to evaluate a study on the entire county. Why didn't they do it then? The neighbors who opposed it, why didn't they raise their own funds? Where is your study? And that's my issue with it. And also, I don't like this theme that we cannot be trusted to make our decision. So if we have for July vote, we have plenty of months to educate ourselves. I want to learn more about the police issue. Actually, I'm very interested about that, and I had not considered it fully. I think the fact that they do not want us to vote speaks volumes as to the sentiment of the voters in the area. Because if they are so certain that those 500 signatures are going to result in the defeat of the city, then let's take it to a vote. Why are you so afraid of that? So that's what I don't understand. As a member of the Hispanic community, I actually look forward to the city of Brookhaven. It will be a large Hispanic population within it, and hopefully we can actually elect representatives that would address some of the issues of Hispanic members, not just in the yellow area. I'm in the green area, and I'm a Hispanic. So not all Hispanics are in Brookhaven. We're not, I think somebody said, undocumented. That's not true. We have a viable, diverse community. I think the city of Brookhaven will be wonderful. I honestly don't care about the name. It could be Ashford Park, whatever they want to call it. But unfortunately, we are out of time because of the plans of other municipalities. So I hope that you would give us the right to choose for ourselves, educate ourselves, and trust us enough to know that we're smart people and we will make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is J. Max Davis, and I live in the bottom portion of the green section of the map there. I've lived in DeKalb County all of my life, and I understand the legislative process a little bit, and I understand why we have to be here to testify before this committee is because there's a bill pending, House Bill 636, that has to go through this committee before it gets to the floor. And your vote on this committee will determine whether or not all these people for and against will be able to vote yes or no if they want to incorporate. If you vote no, we don't get a say. And in our republic, in our state constitution, and our federal constitution, self-determination is paramount. Voting no on this bill, not recommending it go to the House floor, will deny us that right. Voting yes on the bill simply means you're letting these people here and everybody that lives inside that map decide for themselves what type of government they want. That's all we're here for. Nothing else about the police presence, nothing else about zoning or code issues. Has nothing to do with it. The only thing we want and that we would like to move the committee to do is to pass House Bill 636 out of your committee. I would like to briefly, with your permission, Chairman, to ask everybody here who is for House Bill 636 to briefly stand up.
No, we don't need to do that. And I want to call, excuse me, there'll be no outbursts from the audience. I just want to caution you, we've already taken 10 minutes on this side. So
thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. I'm used to the quorum, I'm sorry. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman.
Let me call the next few names. Are you Michael Rock?
I am, yes, thank you.
All right. Chad Bowles, John Snyder, Mark Grafagny, and Stan Siegel. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. This is a new experience for me, and I appreciate as a citizen the opportunity, regardless of whether I'm pro or against this, to come down here and speak.
Sorry, and Jonathan Byrd. Sorry.
That's okay. My name is Michael Rock. I live in the Hartsmill area of the proposed area of Brookhaven. It's proposed city of Brookhaven. I have lived in Atlanta for 38 years and in DeKalb County since 1998. I have seen the areas I grew up mature into cities through a very simple, repeated, and successful process. A large bipartisan group of interested citizens raising private dollars, studying the opportunity before them, organizing very well, and completing a legislative process by voting to determine their own destiny. Chamblee, Milton, Chattahoochee Hills, Sandy Springs, Johns Creek, Dunwoody, and the proposed incorporation to create South Fulton, all either formed or not formed, through a democratic and repeated process that gave the citizens of the area in question the right to make a determination for themselves on cityhood. The process has worked quite well. Citizens in every neighborhood of the proposed city of Brookhaven have followed this same process, expressing their desire to vote on the opportunity to create a new city. We have raised private funds. We have studied the viability through the state's own recognized expert, the Carl Vinson Institute, put the notion forward into the impacted community in every viable and reasonable method that we could. For an extended period of time, elected legislators have distributed at our request, not their own, input and feedback, revised the plan based on that feedback, and now here we are, just like so many before us. And in this day and age, where apathy in our governmental process and legislative processes so often overrides the duty we all have as citizens, where the charge of voting is seen as a burden rather than the most basic responsibility of a citizen, we stand organized, we stand ready, we stand prepared to fulfill our civic duty. For the city of Brookhaven or against it, we ask for that opportunity to vote, and to vote now. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, members of the committee and fellow neighbors. My name is Chad Bowles, and I live in Brookhaven Fields, what would be the very much maligned District 1 at the very bottom there, and I'm here to tell you we're a very diverse community. I've lived in the proposed city of Brookhaven for 15 years. I support a city as I am certain we can do much better with the tax dollars we would shift from DeKalb County to our new city. But what I and others like me won't be able to do is see which position everybody in our community agrees with. That is, if you don't let those of us for and those of us against settle that question on a vote. It appears fairly simple and logical to say, let the residents of the area determine what they want to do. Last year, I had to go through the process of convincing at my expense the DeKalb County Tax Commissioner's office that my house was worth 30% less than the assessed value. Not only was that a little demoralizing, it was made worse when a mere 2 months later, everyone in unincorporated DeKalb was assessed a 30% increase in their property taxes. My first thought was, where in America does the price of a service go up, but the service stays the same? Much less that a 30% increase I wasn't even asked about. When my wife asked me why I get so engaged, I made this analogy. For the money we are paying, the schools in our neighborhood should compete on a national level for excellence. Our parks should be the envy of all of our friends, and we should have roads that are repaved every 5 years. Of course, none of those things are happening, which is why I'm standing in front of you today. I live within 4 blocks of Briarwood Park and Rec Center. It's right next to Buford Highway. It has tennis courts with no lights. It has a gymnasium that is closed on the weekends. Every DeKalb County gymnasium has wooden basketball court except ours. We still have linoleum tile that no one can play on because it's closed on the weekends. Now, God didn't give me the gift of a strong forward, but I'm a devil from the three-point line. Our pool hasn't been opened in 2 years with no plans of reopening. There is a water park in South DeKalb. Briarwood Park and Rec Center has a baseball diamond on the main entrance map. The field is a mowed meadow with a large sewer manhole that I assume would make a good home plate. Other than that, there are no distinguishing marks that would outline it as a play field at all. The only thing that does occur in Briarwood Park with fervor is voting, and at that, our neighborhood is the team to beat. There are kids in the proposed District 1 every bit as deserving for a place to compete as the kids in South DeKalb. We already have a mascot, the Briarwood Bulldogs. It's painted on the wall inside. You can see it when you vote. How great would it be to see the kids from Buford Highway competing every year for a championship in either academic or athletic endeavors? Pretty great, I'd say. Every time I go over there, I feel like I'm in a bad version of a John Candy vacation. Sorry, folks, park's closed. We in Brookhaven are not being served by the current system of government. Our community deserves the chance to vote on a proposed City of Brookhaven. We could triple the parks budget. I have learned over the past several years that community involvement is a thankless job, so to everyone on this committee, we appreciate what you guys do, but let us vote.
Thank you. Now, I'm really getting tired of responding after every speaker of the clapping. And if it doesn't cease, I'm going to ask the officer in the back of the room to escort the people out that insist on these personal outbursts. Please, let's be civil in this whole process. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is John Snyder. I live on Wilmont Drive in the proposed incorporated area of the new city of Brookhaven. Today, I'm not here to support or deny the city of Brookhaven. Today, I'm here to defend the right to vote. The state of Georgia has had a long history of denying and suppressing its citizens the right to vote. Many Georgians in our illustrious history have been jailed, beaten, and often killed for trying to exercise their civil right to vote. We must never take a step back towards that dark time in our history. U.S. Congressman from Georgia, John Lewis, has spent a lifetime defending voting rights. He sums it up best, and I quote, "The right to vote is precious and almost sacred, and one of the most important blessings of our democracy. Today we must be vigilant in protecting that blessing. The vote is the most powerful, nonviolent tool we have in a democratic society. We must fight back, we must never go back, and we will not stand idly while Americans are denied their right to participate in the democratic process." End of quote. Today I plead with you to send House Bill 636 to a vote, allow the citizens of DeKalb to determine their own future, and I ask that you not suppress our rights as Georgians to vote. Thank you for your time and for your service.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Thank you for your time today. My name is Mark Graffinino.
Sorry about the name.
Not the first time, if you can believe that. I live in the green part of the map. I've lived there since 1995. I was part of the citizen group, Citizens for North DeKalb, that raised the money, raised the funds to commission the study by the Carl Vinson Institute. The citizens group was a nonpartisan group. A lot of us, like myself, got involved because we just wanted to see where the numbers came out. A lot of us spent a lot of time, a lot of effort. We raised the money from all across that map from north to south to have the study done. As far as the study done by the Carl Vinson Institute, those guys are the experts. They do it for a living. Their numbers have been proven historically to be on the mark. If anything, they're a little conservative. So I would ask that you take the information in the Carl Vinson study at its face based on their history, as opposed to some armchair quarterbacks trying to nitpick certain sections of it. I'd ask that you do that, and I'd ask that you allow us the right to vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me go ahead and call the next five after our present speaker. Stan Siegel, Daniel Axelrod, Shannon Cambo, Clayton Canero, Lynn Rosser.
Good afternoon. My name is Stan Siegel, and I'm a 30-year resident of DeKalb County. I live within the boundaries of the proposed city of Brookhaven, and I'm here today to ask you to support the passing of House Bill 636 and give me the right to vote in July referendum on cityhood. I understand emotions are on high on this issue, and I'm here only today only to ask that you give me the right to vote yea or nay. I will vote yea. Those opposed to this city say, just slow down, we need more time. But those of us in favor of the city have followed the rules. We followed your rules. We followed the rules of the General Assembly. The bill had to be introduced in the first year of the session. It was. We were told that we had to raise our own money for the feasibility study. We did it. We were told the study had to be done by the Carl Vinson Institute of the University of Georgia, not some graduate student. We did it through the Carl Vinson Institute. And now the opposition says they need more time, although between now and the referendum, there are 6 more months. They say they don't trust the study, but it was authored by the University of Georgia. They say they don't like the boundaries, although in response to their requests, the boundaries changed to remove Century Center and portions of Peachtree DeKalb Airport. If you vote in favor of this bill, both sides of this issue will still have 6 months to inform and educate the community. Plenty of time. Please give us a chance to vote.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Byrd, chairperson / Your Honor and committee members. Thanks for your time this evening. I think this is somewhat of a messy process, forming a city. I've been in DeKalb County now for about 10 years. I own 2 different houses. I've had the fortunate ability to own a rental house as well as a primary residence, so I can see this on both different sides, or both sides as a homeowner. I've also had violent crime happen at my residence and gone through that process as well. But I'm here to talk to what Representative Parent spoke about when she started out, and that was a voice. I want to have a voice. I want us all to have a voice. Whether you're for this, whether you're against this, I think that we need to have a vote. That's very crucial to what I believe in my heart and what this country does stand for. And we talk about fairness and what's fair. Well, I think what's fair is if you're against it, I totally respect you. If you're for it, I totally respect you. But let's take this to a vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Dan Axelrod. I'm a resident of the green portion of that map. I live and own a house just about dead smack in the middle of that green portion. I'm here today because I can't for my life understand why we wouldn't be given the opportunity to vote on whether a city is formed or not. I respect the people who have gotten up here and spoken against allowing us to vote. However, most of the arguments that I've heard have been things like, well, we haven't budgeted enough for sewers, we haven't budgeted enough for police. And I understand that those are real issues, but the citizens should get a right to decide whether those numbers are right or not and vote on them. That's how democracy works. We live in a democracy, and a vote, not allowing us to vote, is really an end run around this process that so many people have put a lot of time and a lot of effort into. And what you're doing by not allowing us to vote is really not, in my mind, what should happen in a democracy. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Chairman, committee members, my name is Lynn Rosser. I too live in the Green area, and I actually am a product of a DeKalb County education. Unfortunately, that wasn't just a couple of years ago. So I'm very familiar with what DeKalb County has been in the past and what it can produce for us. I have since moved back into DeKalb County 7 years ago, and we deliberately purchased property that was in unincorporated DeKalb County. Since that time, my thoughts and ideas about that have changed tremendously. I look at some of the issues that we face on a daily basis in our neighborhood and some of the steps we have had to take just within our group, our neighborhood group, to rectify some of those problems. And I feel that if we had a smaller area and a government that was controlled in a local area such as ours, we would have much better say in what services we have. So having said that, I do like the idea of giving us the opportunity to vote. I do think that it is our right to do so, and I would just ask that you please grant that for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Clayton Conroe. I would like to thank everyone here who was elected, and I would like to point out that that demonstrates that the rest of us have the intelligence to make proper decisions voting. And I'm proud to live in a community that has this much passion for and against an argument. I have not made up my decision, but I think that we should all congratulate ourselves for being a part of this and for demonstrating that we can make the proper decision. Thank you.
Thank you. And before you start, we've got Jeff Keller, Margaret McIntyre, Larry Denise, Eric Dearson, and Alan Cole.
Hi, everybody. My name is Shannon Cameron. I've lived in the Brookhaven area, the yellow and the green, for almost 20 years. I've been a voter since I was 18, which was not that long ago, but I really value my right to vote. And when I heard that it was possible that I wasn't going to be able to make a decision on this issue either way, I got motivated and decided to come down here. So this is a big deal for me. The police force is awesome, and we really respect what you do. But in my neighborhood, we recently have had a lot of break-ins. Neighbor's out of town, tells the neighbor he sees a box truck pulled up to this house. He calls 911. 25 minutes later. 25 minutes later, that's not okay. We're in the green section. This is a concern. So that's one of the reasons I'm here as well. The last thing to know is Nancy Creek Heights Neighborhood Network. I am on the board. We've had a vote. There's about 100 homes in there. 95% are in favor of being able to vote for this either way. So please take that in mind as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, I'm Margaret McIntyre. I live in the green section of the proposed city of Brookhaven. I've lived there since 1985. I'm a management consultant, and I have a number of issues and concerns that, and hearing the opposition to the vote, have raised issues that I hadn't heard of before. But I believe in the forcing device of the vote to be able to resolve these issues. They can go on and on and on, and the debate can continue. So I'm here not in favor or against the city, but the right to vote.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jeff Keller. I'm a CPA here in town. I was on the Citizens for North DeKalb board. One of the reasons I was on the board is when this originally came up, I was a skeptic. When Mike first sent out his email about the bill and introduced the bill, I sent him an email back saying, I'm not so sure about this. When we had the first meeting, I went to it. Mike's and others said, if you would like to be involved or learn more about this, give your name and number to one of 3 people that were in the room. We had about 300 people there. And we had 2 or 3 meetings, and at each one, several hundreds of people attended. I expressed my skepticism to one of those folks. I told him my background, and as a result of my skepticism, I was asked to coordinate the task forces that were involved in just looking and researching the various items. I'm not here to say yes for a city or no for a city. Like everyone else, I'm just here to say, please give us the right to vote. We respectfully ask that you give us that right. Let the political process run its course, whichever direction it may go. Let us vote one way or another for the future of our community. Mike's already addressed some of the issues about representation. I won't cover that. But Georgia, in this state, we have 535 cities, whereby residents are allowed in their communities the right to vote on matters that affect their day-to-day lives. We would like to have that vote as well. Our city would be the 16th largest, larger than Rome and larger than Gainesville, just to put it into perspective. As has been mentioned, some argue that we need more time on this issue, but Citizens for North DeKalb, we started up, all major TV stations covered the bill. We started meeting, we funded a study. No one else has done so. Not only that, they haven't even begun to start a study. But when it gets down to it, the issue is not really about studies or how many could possibly be performed. It's about government being closer to the people it governs. Again, all we ask for is the opportunity to vote and make this decision locally concerning the future of our own community. I just leave you this thought. When you vote for House Bill 636, you're essentially voting on voting. When you vote, just ask yourself one simple question. Should the residents of Brookhaven have the right to vote? We ask that you vote yes for House Bill 636 so that we in turn can vote yes or no, one way or another, to determine the future of our own community. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Chairman Hamilton, Vice Chair Purcell, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Larry Denise. I live within the boundaries of the proposed city of Brookhaven, and I support its creation. I'm going to follow the chairman's advice and not get into the right to vote. That's been said. I am concerned about, which has also been mentioned, the possible loss of the opportunity to vote should this be delayed because of annexations by the city of Dunwoody and the city of Chamblee. As you may recall from the Dunwoody incorporation, there were maps that showed the expansion of Dunwoody south of 285 and the westward expansion of Chamblee and the southward expansion of the city of Dunwoody. Those were rolled back at the time of the City of Dunwoody vote, but those maps are alive and well, and we want to be sure that we have an opportunity to incorporate our own area without the area being divvied up by Dunwoody and Chamblee. One of the things that I want to do is just go to what did we know and when did we know it? The Board of Commissioners passed a resolution on November 15th of 2011, thanks in large part to Commissioner Rader, who through heroic efforts got it passed, which asked this legislature to consider the effects of individual incorporations and annexations on the county's ability to maintain service delivery in the remaining unincorporated areas. That's actually been supported recently by House Bill 830, which you'll probably see, which dropped a few days ago. The opposition used this to ask, what's our rush? We did not know, and why ignore the impact on the county? Well, there is no rush. We're following the legislative process that's prescribed and are in our second year. There have been numerous public meetings on this. And there is no obligation to go door to door to remind residents early and often that a bill has been filed providing for the city of Brookhaven that Dunwoody may annex, that Chamblee may annex, or that Lithonia may annex Stonecrest Mall. It just requires paying attention. The impact on the county due to the Dunwoody incorporation was hotly debated in 2008, before and after the vote. In this legislature and in county government, that was the time to ask, what should the county do? that was the time that long-term impacts on incorporation and annexation on the county should have been brought to the attention of the legislature for possible consideration. Not in November 2011 and not in this instance. We are not rushing, they're late. Thank you for your attention. Please favor us with your affirmative vote.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, thanks for listening to us. I'm the unofficial mayor of Oak Forest Hills, 114 homes. I'm kind of the Mr. Jacob of the area. And
what is your name, please?
Alan Cole.
Thank you.
Sorry. And been a DeKalb voter my entire voting life, even through the military expositions, and served and fought for the right to vote. And our neighborhood's not 100% for or against, but we certainly are for voting for the right to be a city or not a city. And we'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next five after the new speaker is Deanna Ying, Beth Dearson, Tom Riley, Chris Binkert, and Helen Whitmer.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the right to come up here and speak. My name is Eric Dearson, and I live in the prospective area. My opinion one way or the other doesn't matter, but I think our right to vote will flesh that out in every issue that's been brought up today. I believe that is the democratic, the way that we
Your
resolve
opinion better
that.
matter, or we're wasting our time. So
Okay, so I will say is the issues that have been brought up today have already been said. I think they're important, but the one thing I'll say is that the parks in our area, I believe the resources could be put to better use. I use them quite frequently because I'm a runner and I can run really fast, but the police presence in the area doesn't permit my wife to frequent that park, and I ask that she does not unless I'm with her. There have been a lot of crimes committed in that area, which is surprising considering the nature of that neighborhood. But there's, a lack of resources, I believe, for the police to patrol that area. And so I would like the right to vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Deanna Ng, and I live in the green area on the map. A lot of the issues that I would have already been raised. I don't want to repeat. I'll just give you a little bit of my history. I moved to Atlanta in 1999 and selected this area to live in because DeKalb County was known for low taxes, and this area had a really good elementary school, middle school, and high school. Since I moved here in '99, my taxes have nearly tripled, going from $1,400 to $3,800. And what have I seen in this time? We had our house alarm go off, and it took 2 hours for a police officer to come to the door. I've seen numerous neighbors experience thefts at their house, whether it was break-ins or robberies from the car. I've seen parks that could use a lot more attention, and I think a lot of my neighbors are more on the lines of not that I don't want to say like if we could govern ourselves and have our money serve our community, then we'd be the only ones to blame for that, not people who don't live in this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Beth Dearson. I live in the green area on the map, and I am the wife who is the slow runner that he was talking about. But I feel like all the points have been pretty much said, so I don't want to take up more time. But I just really feel like that we really do want a right to vote, and that I think that, when I've talked to my neighbors and I've talked that, there is a lot of opposition here, but I think that there are a lot of people who really want to vote that unfortunately couldn't be here because, people have to work, but that people really want to vote. So I really hope that y'all will, take the time to look at that, but I really hope that y'all will let us vote. So thank you.
And your husband might need to learn to run a little slower.
Hello, I'm Tom Riley, and I live in Dunwoody Forest, which is kind of in the northeast area. of the section we're talking about. I lived in DeKalb County for 59 years this year, and of course many of you in this room already know me. And after 59 years, I look back at this issue, you know, the city of Brookhaven versus the county of DeKalb, and one phrase keeps recurring over and over again in my mind. And that phrase is, quote, "There is no stopping an idea whose time has come." I'm asking you to consider the notion that we studied enough. There have been questions asked and answered repeatedly on this. And now is the time to stop studying, avoid any stalling tactics which are only going to weaken our resolve in the future, and make a decision either way in July on the issue in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Binkert. I live in the yellow portion of the map. And I won't repeat, I support this initiative, and I do think we need the right to vote. But I think there's one item that maybe we haven't examined yet, and that is I'm a sales and marketing executive. And I believe the city of Brookhaven will have a brand that will enable the city to develop and grow faster than if it wasn't incorporated by itself. And while the study rightfully only limits its numbers to the immediate future, I believe the long-term future will look a lot more like Byrd than it will like any other part that was unincorporated. Thank you.
Thank you. Why don't we go ahead and have Karen Whitehead and Sarah Winterstein come up. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and committee members, I'm Helen Whitmer, and I have lived in Nancy Creek Heights for nearly 40 years. I was also born at Emory and went to Emory to school, so I've been in DeKalb County for a long time. I am in favor of the right to vote. If my father were still alive, he would be 101. The older I get, the wiser my father becomes. He always said that the smaller the government unit, the more responsive it can be to its citizens. Therefore, I am in favor of having the right to vote for more local control. Thank you for considering our position.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Whitehead. I live in the Murphy-Candler area, the green section of the map there. I want to say that I am not anti-DeKalb County. I've lived here for 38 years. Since I retired, I give a lot of time to DeKalb County in parks, both at the local level and at the county level. But what I do believe in is the right to vote. Mr. Chairman, you said you didn't want to hear the same thing over and over again, but I think that you can't hear "let us vote" enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Sarah Winterstein. I live in Nancy Creek Heights, and I have for about 41 years. And I think the best thing I could say is ditto. I really believe in the right to vote. Thank you.
Well said. Well said. And with that, we've got time for one more. Pat Lovell. Is Pat Lovell here? All right. Corey Self. Corey Self. They must be dittoing. Corey, you here? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Corey Self. I live in the Ashford Park neighborhood of the map. I've been there for about 7 years now. I would echo the last speaker and say ditto, but in addition to that, I would say that, full disclosure, I was a member of the Citizens for North DeKalb board, and in my capacity there, following Jeff Keller's position there, I joined because I was a skeptic. I did not think that this was a good idea. I did not think I wanted to be part of it. What I learned was that I really like the idea. I love the idea of local control. I love the idea of faster police response times. I understand some of the issues there may be around DeKalb 911 versus a chatcom feature, things of that sort. But my question to that is, why would DeKalb County not already have that better system in place? Why would it take the police and fire chief or fire department so long to get to someone's house that is on fire that it could burn down, as is the case with J. Max Davis? Why would it take so long to get a building permit processed in DeKalb County to rebuild that house after it has burned down? I have concerns with DeKalb County and how it is run that don't stem from the current administration, but stem from a history of administrations with DeKalb County. And for that reason, I would like the right to vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me say before we move into the next phase of this hearing, I really do appreciate all the turnout. I appreciate CEO Ellis for being here. Appreciate your comments, and certainly the police chief. We appreciate your comments and appreciate all the comments, especially of the citizenry. It's really the process, and I hope that you can see that during this whole process, I've made a commitment to both sides that it would be fair and transparent, no matter what some people may think. But we're going to spend time dealing with the issues. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to call the author back to the podium and give him 5 minutes just to make any closing remarks that he would like to, and then allow 10 minutes for the committee members to ask the author of the bill to any questions that they may have at this point. So go right ahead.
Well, first of all, I want to say just wow. I want to thank all of the citizens here, pro and con, for coming out today to your state capitol and making your voice heard on this important piece of legislation that affects your community. It's always great to see citizens engaged with our legislative process here at the Capitol, and so I just am very, very proud of the outpouring on both sides of the issue that came from the community today. So that's the first thing. I stand here in awe of that. I do want to address a couple of things that have been raised. One is that I think it's important to point out here that if this committee sees its way clear to allow this bill to go on in the process, and this General Assembly sees its way clear to pass the bill, and the governor sees his way clear to sign it, and then the citizens vote for a city of Brookhaven, we don't stop being citizens of DeKalb County. And I think that that's something important to point out, that at the end of the day, 88% of our tax dollars will continue to go to the DeKalb County government, and the DeKalb County government will continue to provide for the residents in this footprint certain services, including the constitutionally mandated services that counties provide to citizens. So I think that's important to point out here, that we're not breaking away from DeKalb County. We are still a part of DeKalb County. But we are choosing for our truly local services, if we vote for this at the ballot box, for our truly local services, for police, for parks, for roads and drainage, and particularly for planning, zoning, and land use, to control our local space, to have those services administered at a more local level, a level where the folks who are involved in our city government are the folks we see at the grocery store, or the folks we see at Costco in town Brookhaven. And I should note that at the Costco in town Brookhaven, people from historic Brookhaven, Ashford Park, and the Murphy-Candler area all shop there. So this notion that you're not Brookhaven, or you're not Brookhaven, or that person over there is not Brookhaven, I think is a little absurd. Now, DeKalb County has a budget of $540 million thereabouts. We're talking about $20 to $25 million worth of tax revenue here based upon the Carl Vinson study. So you hear the hue and cry about, well, what's the impact on DeKalb? DeKalb's going to go down the tube. Someone even suggested that somehow people who are involved in this effort want to see DeKalb County bankrupted. Well, that's absurd. Because there's a flip side of that coin. And that is that for certain local governmental services, DeKalb County is no longer responsible at all for providing those services to 50,000 of its citizens. There are two sides to that coin. It's not just that the citizens decide they would like to administer certain revenues more locally and provide those services more locally and have local voices involved in that. It's also that DeKalb County no longer has to provide those same services to those 50,000 residents. So it cuts both ways, and to not recognize that there are two sides to that coin, I think, is unfair to what cityhood really is all about. And if you really boil this bill down, you heard it over and over and over again today, that what this bill does is enable a referendum. You have a group of citizens that followed the rules that this committee set out, that the bill be introduced in the first year of a 2-year term, that a feasibility be performed by the Carl Vinson Institute of Government at UGA. The money had to be, private money had to be raised to make that happen. And then ultimately, only then do we consider this bill in the second year of a 2-year term. These citizens have followed the rules that were set out by this General Assembly. And so what I ask this committee to do, and ultimately what I'll ask the entire General Assembly to do, is to see its way clear to allow us to do exactly what Sandy Springs did, to do exactly what Johns Creek did, to do exactly what Milton did, to do exactly what Dunwoody did. And in July of this year, more than 6 months from now, more than enough time for all sides to get their information on the table, allow these citizens to vote on whether they would like to form Georgia's newest city, the city of Brookhaven.
Thank you very much, Representative. Members of the committee, you've seen the presentation last week. You've had plenty of time to look at the bill and everything, and now we have an opportunity to ask questions. And we're in a new setting than our normal, so number 2 here. So, Representative Oliver, can you test your mic there, see if you're on?
If the city of Chamblee does what it's allowed to do, follow the rules, and annex portion of the green map, and the city of Brookhaven opportunity to vote passes, and the governor signs both bills, what will be the legal result?
Which one?
Well, I think first of all, we don't have another bill that's actually moving in the General Assembly at this time. But if the bill actually does move, and it looks like we have 2 bills with conflicting boundaries on their way to the governor's desk, then that is a situation that will need to be addressed at that time. Now, I can tell you that the net revenue numbers of the area that overlaps are already known, and we still have a surplus at the end of the day.
I think the answer to that question, I'm not 100% sure, and I really didn't know if you were sure or not, is that we don't know what would happen. We don't know what the legal result would be. That's never been determined or litigated. Am I right about that?
Well, I do not believe that issue has been litigated, but at the end of the day, I mean, there is one bill before this committee now, and there is another bill that has not even been introduced yet, and I can't account for the other bill before this committee today. But obviously, the legislative process goes on 40 legislative days, and over the course of 3 or 4 months. And I fully anticipate that if those 2 bills are moving at the same time, the situation will need to be addressed in the course of this process.
Thank you. Representative Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions, and let me just say that I do not live
I've been here for 10 years, and just to see all of these issues, and I see Senator Miller back there, you know, I have deja vu.
Representative Jacobs has been an instrumental part of that too, right? All right.
So I want to make a quick statement and ask a few questions if I could. I'll just ask them all at once so we can get them out of the way. I have no dog in this fight. I'm just trying to understand. I do think that some very compelling arguments on both sides have been made. So as someone who does not live in DeKalb and I don't understand all of the community dynamics, this is a difficult decision, which is why I wish that this would go through the normal process of going through the delegation so that people who don't live in DeKalb don't have to get in your business, quite frankly. But this is where we are, and I understand that. So here are my couple of questions. For the people who say, and you may not be able to answer this, but for people who say this is moving too fast, I'd like to know what kind of time frame they're wanting to have and what information they are looking for that the Carl Vinson study did not provide. So that's my first question. The second question is, there was a woman that talked about a part of the proposed Brookhaven that was not included and they want to be included. And I heard there was a reference to boundaries have been changing. So I'm interested to know, as the author, are you willing to talk to people in that particular community who want to be included in this proposed area? And then my third question is about the name of the city. Clearly people who live in the current Brookhaven feel some sort of affinity to that. And it appears to me, based on the testimony, that all of what is considered Brookhaven is not included in this proposed city. So are you open to looking to another name so that you can accomplish the same thing, but that the name of Brookhaven would be kept to the people who have adopted or that's their community? So those are my three questions.
Well, I don't think I can answer the first question because that can only be answered by the people who, who state that position. On these, I know what the third question was. What was the second question?
There was a woman who said that some of the parcels were included, but not the actual community.
Well, I should say, first of all, that there have been meetings with the adjacent neighborhood that you're talking about in good faith to deal with boundary issues. And in fact, one thing that wasn't stated at all, okay, was that there are areas of that map that were taken out of the proposed boundaries. One of them is, the Century Center, if you're familiar with the intersection of Claremont and I-85, the Century Center Office Park. That's fine. Well, that Century Center Office Park, based upon an analysis that Carl Vinson performed, would have been worth about $1 million to $1.5 million in net revenue to the proposed city of Brookhaven. It would have increased that surplus by $1 million to $1.5 million. But there was an issue over that particular office park, and the decision was made to let it remain with the adjacent neighborhood. Same thing with PDK Airport, which was part of this map until very, very recently. And that was both based upon concerns expressed by folks in the DECA neighborhoods and the city of Chamblee, which would be, and this was an accommodation to the city of Chamblee, and as soon as I made that decision, I want to be upfront about that. I made that decision, and as soon as I made that decision, I called Eric Clarkson, the mayor of Chamblee, and explained to him why I made the decision, and it was so that we don't completely surround his city of Chamblee with this new proposed city of Brookhaven. Now, so that answers some of the boundary concerns, and then finally on the name, I mean, that's a game that can be played all day long, because Ronnie Mayer over there, where's Ronnie? Oh, Ronnie's gone. All right, Ronnie will stand up and he'll say, "This is Brookhaven." He'll point to his neighborhood in Ashford Park. Folks in historic Brookhaven will point to Ronnie and say, "You don't live in Brookhaven." I live in the Murphy-Candler area, and darn if I don't live in Brookhaven, then Steve Levine, the publisher of the Brookhaven Reporter, needs to stop dropping his paper in my driveway. I mean, we can play that game all day long, but at the end of the day, there is a commonality among this entire area. and I think it is well defined as a proposed city of Brookhaven.
All right, thank you. We've got time for one more question, and there will be next week's hearing an opportunity for additional questions, but Representative Mosby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, we've heard a lot about this has been an end run around the process, and the speed of this particular piece of legislation has to do with, for among other things, the annexation issue from Dunwoody or Chamblee. Can you speak quickly about what's the justification for not allowing the delegation to actually hear this particular piece of legislation and it vote on whether or not this should be coming forward to the General Assembly? What would be the justification for that?
Representative, we are following the same process that has been followed for the incorporation of new municipalities from Sandy Springs through the present, and I don't think that the rules of engagement need to be changed. I think that this bill is getting a thorough vetting in going through the process as it is.
Peachtree Corners went through the same process?
Peachtree Corners did not, no.
Okay. We'll deal with this next week.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate the time of the author, the members of the committee, to the general public that was here. We have the next scheduled hearing is next Tuesday. We believe it's 1 o'clock. We'll be sending out the notice, but we'll be getting that information out to you. I believe it's 1 o'clock next Tuesday. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.